good little rundown of the indicator that I made. You can find this indicator on TradingView, as well as many of my other indicators as well. This particular indicator is the volume spikes and VWAP bands indicator. I will add a link to it in the bottom of the video here briefly, but I'm just like I said, I'm going to give you a rundown of it. So the indicator I created is called the the volume spikes and VWAP bands. What it does is it gives you your first and second standard deviation bands, upper and lower. It gives you the VWAP. It also adds volume spikes. You see your bigger circles, those are your larger spikes. If you see your smaller circles, of course, those are your smaller spikes. Okay, it also does liquidity sweeps. So you see bearish wick liquidity sweeps. You can change that if you want. And then you will also see bullish liquidity sweeps as well. Okay. And then it also leaves the area, so you know the sweep area, right? It'll be labeled in green or whatever color you decide to change the candles to. Okay, it does have other features to it as well, which I'll break some of those down. We'll go into the settings. If you want the volume spikes to only go off of hammers and shooters, because those are what you like, then you can also add it where it's only going to go off of hammers and shooters, and I'll change that, and then you'll see the difference, how you're seeing some of those disappear. Right, so then if you just want to follow hammers and shooters, that's perfectly fine, and it'll just show you the shooter, which is they tried to push up. It has a higher wick, smaller body. Same thing on the lower end as well. A longer wick, smaller body, and you can take that on and off if you want. You can also change up the price source of it if you want to. I personally like open, high, low, close, last four. Okay, to me that is the best settings available for that. Okay, you can show the daily VWAP or take it off. You take the label off. Only reason that I have the label checked off is because I did the coding, but for some reason, like, I wasn't able to really get rid of it. So once you turn it on, sometimes it'll show like multiple labels. Sometimes it won't. It all depends. But personally, I just like it off because I know exactly where the daily VWAP is. That's the main one I'm looking at. And then also you have your previous day's VWAP, which is currently lower. You'll see that in the dashboard that it shows you where the previous day VWAP is, down at 6446.50. And if we scroll down, we will see down there. Oops. Oh, whoa. What happened there? Let's get back to the auto adjust there. Sorry about that, guys. If you scroll down, then you'll see the previous day VWAP, and you see how it's kind of multi-labeled and everything like that. That's why I turn it off. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it don't. Right. But let's get back to the description. So you can show the previous day VWAP if you like it. I personally like it because then it kind of gives us context when we are above the previous day's VWAP and the current day's VWAP, that most likely may be bullish for the day. It's not guaranteed, but it's just kind of a added confirmation to it, right? Sometimes you may see price break below the current day VWAP, go bounce exactly off of the previous day VWAP, then return to value, pushing towards the VWAP. Okay, you can take the bands off if you want the bands off. If you're not a fan of the bands, I personally leave them on, because then those are the points where sometimes we find our touches, where they come and they bounce off of them, push back up, wick off of other standard deviation bands, wick off the VWAP, push back down to the other bands, get stuck, and then return to value area, which is in between the first standard deviation and the VWAP, and then push through to continue on throughout the day. Okay, you can also, it is a coloring feature, right? So if you want assistance to know when we're outside of the value area, which is in between the first standard deviation band and stuff, you can go ahead and you can add a color change, right? So you can change the colors of your candles when they're outside of the value area, right? And then you'll see it broke out, came back in, went back to your normal colors, and then it pushed out and then turned into the green bars, letting you know, right? If you don't want the outline of the candles colored, so then that way you can still kind of identify them by being able to tell. Like you'll see, like it has the blue outlining on the candles when they're outside of it, right? And then you'll see that it still has the black when the candles are pushing down. So if you still want to be able to see, right, you can change that, right? If you want to change the wicks, I believe, let me see here. I think you can, and it should change. Right? I know sometimes it be acting kind of screwy, which it looks like it is right now. Right? But and then like on your lower ones, you can see right here how you see the blue outline still on the candles that were rising. Then you see the black outline on the candles that were falling. So same thing up here, you'll see the blue outline. It depends on whatever color that your candles are, right? Mine's just so happen to be blue and green, right? That aqua blue and green, right? So we'll take that off, and if you just want to outline them, then you can just kind of outline them, and then it's going to show the outline, right? So hope you guys like that feature added to it as well. Show dashboard. This is one of the key things that I love about this indicator. Even if you don't want to use the VWAP, if you don't want to use the VWAP bands, particularly because you have a different style of trading, whether you want to trade ICT, whether you want to trade moving averages, Ikomoshi clouds, whatever, right? Okay, you can just go ahead and say, well, I'm just going to remove everything, right? I'm going to take off the VWAP. I'm going to take off the bands because I don't want to see any of that junk because that's not my style of trading, and add on whatever you want to add on. Even if you don't even want any indicators, right? Then you can still use this dashboard to be able to tell the volume strength of the current candle, because as we know, if you're a trader, that they can hide, right, their entries, right? They can hide their exits, right? They can manipulate all that stuff, right? As far as the candles, the price going up and down. And that's what I mean by saying they can manipulate their entries, manipulate their exits, right? What they can't manipulate is the volume, right? We are on a 1 minute time frame, but the volume strength on this indicator, it goes all the way, of course, from 0.00 when it starts, and then it can go to extreme levels when it reaches up to 20.0, right? And that's an extreme, like a news event or something like that, right? But it will show you 1.25 when a good strong candle is moving to 2.30 to 4.5 to 7.8, whatever that particular candle shows at that time, right? Higher time frames are still going to show higher levels, but if you are on a lower time frame of 1 minute, 2 minute, all depends on the style of trading that you use, right? Even those stronger candles are going to show lower levels, right? You're going to find your highest bars, honestly, on the 1 minute time frame. I know some guys may not be a fan of that. It all depends on your type of style of trading. 5 minutes, you're still going to see good, decent volume strength when you got heavier pushes and everything, right? So I love this dashboard because it still gives us context, right? Like you see that we says that we're bullish right there, because that's the context. It's mainly showing that we are bullish because we are above the VWAP, right? I mean, not this necessarily still just above the VWAP, right? My apologies. Because we are above the VWAP and because we're above the first standard deviation band, right? So even if you don't want to trade this style of trading, right, it still allows you to know where we at, right? If it gets back inside of this band right here, then it's going to show that it's neutral, right? So then that way you know we're kind of neutral. We're not going out into price discovery, meaning that we're above the first band. If we're lower, same thing, it'll show neutral in this area because we're not outside of the first standard deviation band, showing that we're in discovery, and it'll show bearish if it was down here, right? The offsets, right? Sometimes, like when you initially started, it's going to be kind of like over the candles, what's going to be in the way. These are my offsets. You can change it to whatever you personally like, right? You can bring it in or out. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, when you first initially started, I believe it's going to be kind of in somewhat like this, where it's in the way of the candles and hovering over, which I don't like. But like I said, you just take it and you just slide it over, and then you either move it up or down on the bar depending upon how close you would like it to the bars. Or me personally, I like it a little bit further away up where it's still visible, where I can see exactly what's going on. That little ticking sound you hear in the back, that is a different site that I use to be able to kind of gauge the orders that are coming in to the market for the volume and everything. Sorry about that. That was one of my alerts going off. But as I was saying, so you can use the dashboard if you're not into that, the liquidity sweeps and everything. Personally, I like to leave the liquidity sweeps on. Some people, if you're not looking for those, right, you can just kind of dim it off. I didn't honestly put a switch on there, so you can just honestly disable it. Sorry about that again. That's another one of my alerts going off. I am still actively looking at the market on my other desktop or whatever, so I can't honestly turn those off right now, because if something does show up, I may decide to get into a trade right now. Right, I'm just kind of waiting until price till after lunchtime, and then we start getting some movement again. But as I was saying, if you don't want the liquidity sweeps all and the areas, then you can just go on here and you can just take the colors all the way down, and it should disappear, even though it's not showing. I'm not kind of sure why. Let me see. And if it is giving you a problem like it is right now, I believe you can. Let me see here. 0. Nope. Okay, I thought it made it so you can turn it off on the. Let's see here. That's kind of odd. I thought I made it so you can turn those off. Right. Oh, oops. I'm sorry. Right. I think you turn the sweep area off. Right. And I believe you should still be able to. I'm going to work on that, guys. Unfortunately, if you don't want it on at all, right? But I mean, I guess you can honestly just still bring it down to 0, turn the extended area off, so that way it's not showing you that sweep area. But I say it will help you in your trading as well, knowing when liquidity is swept with this. I think you can also, maybe if you, nope, okay. Well, yep, sorry about that. I'll try to work and try to update the code for that, okay? Personally, me, I like using the liquidity sweeps. I think it's a good feature to have on there, so that way, you know, when liquidity is getting swept versus, you know, no liquidity sweeps are happening in those lower areas and everything. So I'm just going to it's out of here right now. So then, in fact, let me make sure I put all my colors back how it is, how it need to be. Price is moving down pretty good. If you hear that sound going, right, and then you also see this volume increasing and everything like that, right, that's kind of showing you those aggressive orders that are stepping in as they're getting back to that first standard deviation band, and we see that little bounce right there, right? But let me finish doing this, and then that way we can kind of move on as well. And then so these are all the inputs. I don't change the inputs or anything like that. Unless me personally, I want to see all the different volume spikes that happen. Session time, you just leave that blank. But these are all my settings for them as we just went over. You can go to style. Okay, these are off mainly because of it's just another thing. If you know, depending upon how you like, if you want to just see a line, you'll see it kind of put that line inside of there, right? If you don't want the circles, you want a line. Okay, the lines there, circles. I personally like the circles myself. You know, you just click over here and how the thickness of the line that you like, whether you want the circles or however you want your design to be on the chart, totally up to you. The upper bands, I have them in black, and thicker lines dashed, well dotted, right? You can put a dash however you want to put it. You can change or turn off the shapes if you don't want the shapes on, if you don't want to know where volume spikes are. Like I said, all that stuff is totally up to you. Use it how you want to. Those are for the bigger ones and the smaller ones, right? So the lower ones are changing, the bigger ones on and off. All right. Okay. bar color, that is for when you the bar color is for when you want to change onto the candle color, right? I believe that's the style that I had set it up on. So if you want to go blue, then you can change that to blue, red, orange, you know, whatever you want to change it to, right? So if you want to be able to identify them, you know, however you choose to do so, right? That was for the green, right? So when you want to change that color on there, if you want to use those when it's above that, then you can go there and then you can change that on or off depending upon however you want to. With that borders, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize earlier because I was giving you guys my stuff. So then you can do the borders over here as well, and if you want to have the outlines, then you just click back over here, and then the borders, red, green, however you want to do them. If you want them purple, you know, whatever, right? Change it to however you decide that you want it, right? Whatever you see fit, and then that gives you that. I'm just going to remove those off of there. And I believe that is pretty much it, right? You know, if you like the bands field, I don't personally like the bands field. I don't think it's necessary. That is a feature that's usually automatically on. I have them turned off though, because I don't want anything extra on my screen. And that is pretty much all of the features for my volume spike, VWAP bands, liquidity sweeps, and what is it? Volume spikes, VWAP bands, liquidity sweeps, and the dashboard indicator. Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will put a link for the indicator in the description of this video if you decide to use it for whatever features. Like I said, if you want to use it for the usage of the VWAP because you are a fan of trading the VWAP strategies, perfectly fine. If you want to remove everything, like I said, and you just want to use the dashboard because you found the dashboard is helpful for getting your context for whether we're bullish or bearish, right? If you just want to use it for the volume strength to know, like right now, have we been witnessing that the volume has been very low. We had a little bit of high volume on that candle, which I'm glad that it did pop up. I was doing this during lunchtime, so you guys got to see it get up a little, you know, the volume get up a little bit. But like times like this, when you're seeing very low volume, right, then you probably want to actually sit out until the volume starts kind of moving and it's starting to get higher numbers, and it still has decent amount of time on the candle, especially if you're trading on a 1 minute. Me personally, I like to see that volume at least hit about 0.70 and at least maybe anywhere between, at the lowest, I would say about 30 seconds left on the candle, maybe 25, right? But moving steadily. If it was at 0.80 and it's moving to 90, then it's moving to 1.25 to 1.75, and we still got 20 seconds left, and you're taking a quick little scalp play to push up, then that may be a good decent play for you. You may make 50, 100, $150, right? When you see that thing moving and it's 2.25 and you got good time left, those are definitely the volume strengths that you want to see utilizing this indicator. So like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will leave a link in the description so that way if you want to use it, it is available on TradingView. I do have a few other indicators. You would just have to click my name on the link. I do have one for ICT concepts that a lot of people are using. I have one that it has become a favorite for changes in the state of delivery that people are using, and a few other indicators as well. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you later.